In South Beloit, voters approve a 1% sales tax hike in order to raise an estimated $1 million for repairing 42 miles of city roads.
We'll throw it over live now to 23 News reporter Jake Pearson, who is live in South Beloit with the latest on the referendums in North Boone and South Beloit affecting the state line.
Mike, Anna Marie, I am here in South Beloit where a decades-long request from residents will be completed, but at the cost of paying a bit more at the register. South Beloit has passed its referendum that would see a 1% sales tax increase to fix the city's infrastructure. This puts the city's sales tax rate at 8.75%, which is comparable to other state line towns like Rockton and Pecatonica. I spoke with South Beloit's mayor, Tom Fitzgerald, about how this process will be implemented moving forward.
This referendum would probably bring us in close to $1 million a year, and all that money, the whole $1 million, would go to fixing roads for 5 years. Because $350,000 in fuel tax will only get you about 0.7 miles of road.